A couple of quick observations regarding the software. Let's search and find a simple item, and we'll search for 99213. We'll search in Alabama, and we will search for, let's just say, family practice. Now, this brings up the view of the items that this finds, and notice it's 916 records. And of course, the first record is this individual, and it shows all these charges in a facility first, and then later it'll be in the office setting. But the point I wanted to make on this, two quick points. There are a number of little arrows or question marks and two arrows. The question marks will indicate this individual's provider type, but also any specializations. And these specializations are identified by the provider themselves. Also, if we click on this little question mark, it gives us the long description of the CPT code. And if we click on this one, it tells us the average submitted charge, which was 71.45, which we see. It also shows for this physician the average Medicare allowed, average Medicare payment, and average Medicare standard amount. And these are calculated for the specific physician. The two things that are kind of important are these arrows, this green arrow and this green arrow. If you click on the first green arrow, it expands and shows a lot more information. In particular, it tells you a lot more about this particular physician, specialties, phone numbers, and also it shows the CPT code descriptions. And if you hover over it, you'll notice it gives a description, uh, CPT 2015 short description, medium description, click to copy to clipboard. And then this is the long description, click to copy to clipboard. And then there's a conjugated description for this particular physician. In a facility setting, 2015, this physician provided 1,347 unique encounters for 243 Medicare patients for CPT consumer friendly code. And this is the consumer friendly code. There was an average bill charge of 71.45. And keep in mind that this bold description is the consumer description. And there's a long reason why these were included in the Medicare data that was published. It has to do with royalties, but I went ahead and added in the official descriptions. If you are wanting to put this in a life care plan for some reason, click below to copy the description total to clipboard. So if we click on this, it then copies this information to the clipboard, which you could then copy in a life care plan. Um, and this also, you have the ability to simply copy the name and address to the clipboard by copying here or clicking there. And if you want to search the internet for this information, you would click below to search the internet. Uh, let's go to the next person. And what I'm looking for here is an individual that does not have a phone. So in the database, there was no phone number associated with this particular individual. Uh, you notice there's phone one, phone two. Phone one is hard coded, you can't change it. But I have a little button here that if we click it, uh, well, that will not work. But let's look for the actual phone number on the internet for this person. So we'll go to click on the NPI. It brings up a Google search. And I'm just going to look at this particular site, and we should be able to find the phone number for this individual. And when we find it, phone number, I'm going to highlight it. Then I'm going to copy it. Then I am going to go back to this page. I'll click in that box and click P for paste, which doesn't paste it, but it's supposed to. And I'll have to get that corrected. Uh, this is the older version of this. So anyway, uh, in the newer version that you have, when you click P, it will paste that phone number there. We'll then go back. And if you click on this particular green arrow, it shows additional information in a little bit different format, uh, but some of it is very similar. Uh, it talks about the specializations and then gives some detail on the taxonomy codes associated with those specializations. And we will now go back. We will go home. And the last comment is if you're using this information in a life care plan, be very careful at first. Uh, Try not to project more into this data. Well, don't project into this data something that it is not. Uh, it is um, it is data that you should think about and learn about what it's really telling you before you start using it as a source. One of the ways that I like using it would be if I wanted to find an office visit, let's say in the state of Alabama, perhaps in Birmingham, and I want to look for a let's say general surgeon. So I'm looking for the costs for general surgeons in Birmingham for this CPT code to continue. And what I like about this is it allows me, and we're going to zoom to 150 so you can see this a little bit better. It allows me to look at a physician in decreasing order of the number of times they provide this service to a Medicare client. And for this individual, let's preview report 2. We see that we have this individual's phone number. Now I'm going to continue out of the preview and simply uh, go to this particular arrow. It gives us the phone number. So I can pick up the phone. I've got their phone number there and confirm if I want to use a $78 charge or whatever I want to. It makes it easy to contact that person. But rather than simply, if you start using these cost figures from these different physicians, you have to have a logical, well, you have to have a consistent process by which you do it. So for me, if I were to uh, say I want to use one of these specific costs, then I would probably say I want to use the cost of the provider that provided the most of these services to Medicare clients. Now you could say I want to call the first 3 or however you want to do it. Uh, Now, if you look, it will tell you that for general surgeons, for this CPT code in a facility, this is the overall average charge. And there is a lot of discussion we could have on that because Find a Code uses this data, but they do not break it down as specifically. But in this case, in Birmingham, for general surgeons, there were 802 Medicare patients. 1,210 times this service was delivered in a facility setting. And if we go to the very bottom, we'll see that there were 1,933 Medicare patients, and there could be some duplicates there. This service was delivered 2,475 times for an average of $85.74. But if you start entering this data specifically into a life care plan, you really have to look at how you are modifying your procedures and your methodology. Uh, I would go about that slowly until I got very familiar with the data and don't use it in a way that you would not be able to defend later on if you're testifying about it. And this will be something I'll be talking about in greater detail. So I'll go back home and then I'll close the file, and that's the end of it for now.